Cool. Let's do this.
Oh, cool. That looks good. Awesome. Okay, can everyone hear me okay? Awesome. Okay. Yeah, well, I'm Jessie from Pangolin Conservation and Research Foundation. And gosh, we became a conservation partner about middle of the year last year. But it was a very full circle moment for me. And even just being on this call with all of you, because my background is in being a zookeeper. I was a zookeeper for almost 15 years, first at Binder Park Zoo in Michigan, and then at Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge. And I was an AAZK member for many, many years, literally all of those years. And so, yeah, I'm going to national conferences and doing billing for rhinos with my chapters and just being involved in so many ways because I've always had this passion that so many of us have to be plugged into conservation and to give back. And so I really never could have dreamed that my path would take me into working directly with an organization like PCRF and to now today be the PCRF USA manager. So I head up everything with awareness and support on the US side because all of that is so core to what we're doing in Africa. And so, really, it was just so exciting to be even at the national conference last year. And I met so many of you. And yeah, that's where I met on. Although I'd been to the Denver AZAC conference like many moons ago now. It was pre-COVID, so might as well have been another lifetime. But yeah, that's just a quick overview of what I think is like brought us here together today. And I did want to quickly mention because I had a lot of shifting plans the last few weeks where when we set the time and day for this call, I was going to be in the US, but I actually just arrived like last night to Namibia. So I'm coming to you live from Namibia. It's 3:15 in the morning here, but I like belong to no time zone anymore. I'm always between. If anything, I think this really helped me get to bed at a good time. So that way I could just try to get some good sleep tonight because I'm already gonna be jet lagged no matter what. And then, tonight, like I'll really be on the time zone here. So anyway, it's like a bit of extra fun that I'm here with the team in Africa and being able to tune in with you guys, from all these miles away. So yeah, and I guess if at any time anybody I don't know how you typically like to handle questions, because like I could talk forever about a bit more about like my journey getting into PCRF and what we do as an organization, and some exciting things we've been doing in the U.S. as well that's supporting our operations in Africa.
So I don't know nothing about pangolins. I don't work with them. I would want to work with them. It was one of my I hit my bucket list a couple of years ago by meeting a not a wild pangolin, a live pangolin in Vietnam, and so that was just a super highlight. So that was all I know about pangolins. I don't know how many you guys have. What is the state of them? Um, yeah, what continent they're on. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So, well, yeah, pangolins, they're so very unique. They are the world's only fully scaled mammal, and there's 8 species worldwide. There's 4 in Asia and 4 in Africa. And we as PCRF are based in Namibia, but our operations extend for Southern Africa, which covers mainly the Temminck's pangolin or the ground pangolin. It's the second largest species because there are a lot of species that are arboreal. They're a lot smaller, more of like a prehensile tail. And so their ecology is very different and their interaction with their environments are really different. So with the Temminck's pangolin, they are a burrowing animal, and they use burrows mainly dug by aardvarks. These aardvarks are really strong diggers. And so a pangolin will rely on an aardvark's craftsmanship, if you will, to make that burrow. And then they renovate it a bit make it their own. So they tend to be in areas where there's some nice complexes of burrows. And then they'll use that as a home base for their home range, where basically their main job and all they care about is eating ants and termites. And it's really interesting. There's been some dietary studies done where pangolins actually really prefer ants. They will eat termites, but ants will be more like 80% of their diet if they have a say in it. So a lot of that depends on the availability of those ants and termites. And what I've experienced firsthand in working with PCRF, and I'll get into this as we go along, but a lot of what I've done here in Namibia is working in the rehabilitation and rewilding aspect of the pangolins that are rescued from the illegal wildlife trade. So, a big part of that is trying to give them the right foraging opportunities and being able to really gain strength as they're under veterinary care as well, foraging on a natural diet. But that's really challenging depending on what season it is. And unfortunately, pangolins are they are the most highly trafficked mammal in the world, but most of that, at least here in Namibia, happens in our summertime in the US, but Southern Africa's winter. Because it's dry, pangolins are typically nocturnal, but they switch that around and they become more day active. So when they're day active, they're coming out from that burrow, they're foraging around. They're a lot more vulnerable. That's when people are finding them and literally just picking them up because pangolins have this amazing natural defense of those scales, and they curl up into this tight ball when they're afraid and they're stressed. And it's been the most amazing defense for a natural predator for so many years. There's actually been documentation of lions and leopards like trying to open a pangolin, and they can't do it. They get bored like after a while and walk away. But for people, I mean, people have become their number one predator because they're like a small basketball and they just get picked up. They get put into backpacks, into sacks, into whatever can hold them, and then they're held in like terrible conditions. So a lot of times when these animals come to us, they're severely compromised, dehydrated, very thin. We've had a lot of females come pregnant who lose the pup because of the immense stress that they're under. So when they go through this rehabilitation process with us, we really get up close and personal with like the dietary aspect and what they need to do to really naturally forage. And during the winter, ants are hibernating underground. And so the main thing that they can really eat is just termites, which already they don't prefer, and they don't pack as many calories. So, like if there's a small amount of ants, pangolins will punch a lot of calories from that, but they have to eat so many more exponential numbers of termites to make up for that kind of energy they would get from ants. And so we're already at a bit of a disadvantage from a seasonal perspective, trying to get these animals to gain weight and to gain weight quickly enough. And so, like during a severe drought that Namibia had, was in, so not this past year, but the year before. And I mean, it's not the same here, it's still recovering. But during that severe drought, we had animals in rehabilitation for 5, 6 months because they just could not survive on their own. So I think even just the rehabilitation side of our work has really highlighted that intricate balance that pangolins have with their ecosystem and with like availability of food. And it's been really amazing to see that because penguins are also super picky. And so even like here in Namibia, for example, the Temminck's pangolin is the Temminck's pangolin, but there's many different habitats that they can be in. It's savanna, it's woodland. Through our research, we've actually found they also inhabit semi wetlands, and so there's so many like intersecting pieces of learning about pangolins from like a wild pangolin ecology perspective. And that's the core of what PCRF was founded for, because for the world's most trafficked mammal, there's so much that we still don't know. And there's so much that we need to know, because that information is what's informing conservation management and planning. And so that is so key. So, what we've even found as this small grassroots organization is that everything we're learning, we're immediately putting into practice and using. And of course, collaborating with colleagues, trying to learn from each other, because it's like knowledge is power, but when it's shared. So, anyway, it's I think we got into this because of talking about like pangolins and their natural behavior just with how they eat. It's been amazing to see how like a Temminck's pangolin, who is from like a hard ground type habitat, they really only eat specific types of ants that would live in those habitats. So, like what we found before we were able to start rehabilitation, because all of this is just with like exclusive approval of the government as a protected species, we can't do anything without their go ahead. So, before we were able to start doing rehabilitation, when we started really advocating, saying these animals need support, they were being hard released back into the environment by government officials who are not informed with like any kind of habitat survey or analysis. It's just, this looks like a good place. It looks like where I think a pangolin would live, and it's free from the poachers, and so it's fine to be back in the wild. But through our research, we found that's absolutely not the case. And the survival rate of those pangolins was maybe only 40%. So, case by case, and actually, from the very first pangolin I ever met was a female named Penny. And this was in the summer, our summer of 2023. Um, Penny We got the call about Penny when we were opening our research center. So we have a very small, humble research center, like a base camp in the north in the Nainai Conservancy. And this is with the indigenous Juansi San people. So we were literally putting our research center together. It was amazing. We got to employ a lot of local people. We already employ local people as pangolin guardians, but this was a really awesome opportunity. We got to provide a lot of jobs to just make this home base of our research for wild pangolins possible. And that's now been running for almost 3 years, just with the research center on the ground. Beyond that, Kelsey had been doing this for 2 years. So we've got 5 years of the Nine Eye Pangolin project under our belts here. But we were right in the heart of all of that. And we get this call about Penny. And that's from the first time I really got to appreciate just how much work and coordination goes into bringing a pangolin into rehabilitation. And it has not always worked. There's been many times that we've been denied, and they've proceeded with their plans for this pangolin. But I bring up Penny because she started this whole journey of, we really need to have rehabilitation for these animals. And she was the perfect example of why, because like I will never forget going, so we had to drive maybe like 4 or 5 hours to this government office where where she was, like she was in a crate and she'd already been confiscated, but we were like 3 rooms away and we could smell her. And when you smell something that bad, it's a pretty good indicator that a pangolin has been held for at least 10 to 14 days without food, without water. The smell is because she has had nowhere to walk and go to the bathroom. Like she has just been like defecating on herself, urinating on herself. And so Penny was in pretty rough shape, but they did approve her to go to rehabilitation. It took Kelsey was on the phone for literally 12 hours that day, speaking between government, between police, between the veterinarians who had like been initially called, because that's a tough thing as well. A lot of vets do not have experience with pangolins, and you can be a great vet, but pangolins are like they might as well be from another planet. They are so unique, just the way you have to anesthetize them, even just being able to assess body condition, you actually can't do that without a pangolin fully sedated. They have to be sedated. You have to be able to see them on their back, see the belly, and then we can like actually get a good idea of body score and hydration and everything like that. So Penny was a classic case of like this animal needs really like severe veterinary intervention, as well as like really dedicated foraging time with help from us. And she was so weak that she could not go from termite nest to termite nest. And keeping in mind what we already chatted about, this is like the heart of Namibian winter. It's very dry, there's no ants, or if there are, we hope to find them. We're going to find termite nests. That's really what we can find for her. And the nests are hard. So for a healthy pangolin would already have to like really put in some diligent work to get into the nest because they dig with these amazing claws that they have, and can get into the nest a bit. But so we are literally like with a shovel breaking open these nests and opening it up so it's like a honeycomb, and then the termites are exposed. And ideally, they really like the eggs and the larva because that's really good calories, good juicy stuff. And so we were bringing Penny from nest to nest. Also, during that time, like any time that she might want to walk would have been against her progress because like she didn't have any energy to spare. She was just so weak, so starved. And there's a lot of like deep and intricate processes that are really hard to overcome once an animal is in like a starvation mode. So we were opening nest and nest and nest. And that's when I really started to learn like, what it was like to actually like help a pangolin forage. And the way you have to break into the nest is very specific, because you want to get those eggs and larvae before, well, actually at certain times of day because they're housed in different parts of the nest depending on how the sun might be or how close to sunset. There's a lot of these factors. And at the same time, we were like turning over every log that we could, hoping that there was maybe some like, you know, semi awake ant nest, which we did find. It was very, it was a, like a huge surprise, but it was a really intricate balance of getting her the food she needed because we were tube feeding. Actually, a lot of pangolins, even if they're looking good, even if you would say, wow, this animal's walking well, they're foraging well, we can get back the blood work and that'll tell us, okay, some of these values are like kind of on the borderline. We really need to give some additional support. So we've done tube feeding alongside foraging, and we've seen a lot of benefits from that as well. But it was in that time with Penny that when we did find that one ant nest, and she dug into it, and like they kind of pangolins will go into like a trance of some sort when they're really happy feasting on an ant nest. And so she got really like deep into that nest and was eating so well. And that alone told us what kind of habitat she would need to be released into, because that was the pugnacious ant, and that ant is only on hard ground. Whereas if she was a Temminck's pangolin that had been from like a sandy soil like habitat here in Namibia, that would be the drop tail ant. And that would be really actually more difficult to find in winter. But seeing how the pangolins like to forage, that informs so much of how we proceed with rehabilitation for that animal, but also it just informs the whole big picture. And so with each pangolin that we have had in rehabilitation, that's one of the first things we do is try to find ants and see how they feed. Because if Penny had not been from hard ground, even being very hungry, she wouldn't eat those ants. And so then circling back to the need for like dedicated rehabilitation, the animals being hard release, there was no knowledge whatsoever of what kind of habitat that was and what ants were there. So what we have seen even in the last few years with the pangolins that the government said no, like essentially kindly no, we're just releasing these animals. Sometimes I mean, it was so heartbreaking, but the best thing we could do in that moment where our hands are tied and they refuse for these animals to come into rehabilitation is to send a tag. I've literally gone down to where the taxis are, and they make runs up and down the country with a sealed parcel with the vet's name on it, because this vet, all they know how to do is to attach the tag, a GPS tag, to the scale and get that tag to them with the taxi, and then they deploy that on the pangolin. The government releases the pangolin. And we have tried to follow up with some of those pangolins within reason. But again, it's all under government permit. But some of those pangolins have died because they didn't receive supportive care. But through the data collected on the tag, we can then say with additional evidence, this is why we need a balance. We need rehabilitation. We need that element of human care, which for a wild animal, and especially here in Namibia, pangolins would not be kept captive. Even as an ambassador animal, for one, they just don't do well in human care in general. It's very difficult to simulate these like very specific needs that they have. But also, it's just ethically an animal that would not be able to like live a captive life, if you will, without being able to go to the wild. They also have such like a strong instinct. Part of what we've battled to where we are today with the amazing progress we've made in rehabilitation and rewilding care is long before us, there was a lady who just did rehabilitation, like just out of her own house. And through word of mouth, people knew to like bring injured animals to her, all kinds of animals. But she became somebody who would treat pangolins, but she ended up habituating those pangolins and keeping them, and it created a lot of controversy. And then she was ultimately shut down for some like pretty questionable practices. So then insert the foundation of PCRF a few years later. We start as research focused because we need to develop this baseline data that's needed to protect the species. But then over time, kind of floating from 2020 into that time of 2023 with Penny, we're seeing more and more of these confiscated pangolins that just get hard released with such a low survival rate. And in general, pangolins that are under like 6 kilograms, what we have seen statistically are not big enough or strong enough to actually survive. Even with rehabilitation, they really need to like kind of get over that hump of I'm big and strong enough to hold my own out there. So when we were over time now brought into this space of, well, there's a real need to support, yeah, not just the research and protection for wild pangolins, but there's a real critical need to support the ones that are confiscated. And so, literally, case by case, we have shown the government, and that's not just through the successes, but it's also with having them come alongside. It's with the local government officials who, responded to that call, who we discussed and had them bring the animal to us. It's having them come out with us on a foraging session, come with us to the veterinary clinic, have them see with their own eyes what it means to actually see the condition the animal's in, but also the kind of dedicated care that they need to actually have a chance to go back to the wild. And I really think that this, like, just this approach, very genuine, of let's do this together, has really contributed to the success of, okay, like, this really does work. This is needed. Yes, these animals are in human care during this time, but the goal is rewilding. And to do that, they need this process to happen, and happen in a way that supports what they need and not what people think they need. Because even just to give you an example of, we go from Penny in 2023 to in 2024, a year later, I was here in Namibia as the relief rehabilitation director, and we had a call about a confiscated pangolin. And it was, now I was in the shoes of our executive director, Kelsey, who, when she'd been coordinating all day, it's literally what I did all day, coordinating between police, the government, the vets, all getting on the same page, figuring out when the animal's coming, trying to determine what kind of condition it's in already, getting everything ready on our side to receive the animal and to go out foraging. And that night, when we finally got this male out there foraging, I'll always remember it because it was like a scene out of The Lion King, where, like, the sky, just, there were so many stars in the sky that you couldn't even, like, count them. And we are, like, our small team is out there with red lights, and we opened that first termite nest and we put him there at the nest. Just like with Penny, like, they can't do that on their own at first. We want to help, like, preserve that energy. And I just remember thinking as I watched him that there are so many more pangolins just like him that will never have this opportunity. And it was just like this moment of, how powerful it is just for even this one animal, for, of course, himself, but also to be an ambassador that's helped us really, like, show the need for this. Because one of the biggest problems with pangolins being the world's most trafficked mammal is they don't leave a carcass behind. So most of them just disappear into the legal wildlife trade, and it's most of them are not recovered. Most of them are not even detected along the way. So as I'm watching this little pangolin eat on this termite nest and thinking about how all of these many, many intricate factors had to come together for him to be right here at this moment on the ground again, with the soil beneath his feet and digging into this termite nest, that the reality is so many stay in the backpack and stay in the boxes and make it out of the country. There's known trafficking routes. I will say the police here in Namibia has gotten a lot better with following up on leads and tips and actually finding a lot of animals and confiscating them, which is why our intake numbers have been a lot higher. Like, in the first week of December alone, we had 4 pangolins the most we've ever had in the span of 1 week. It was crazy. I was not here on the ground at the time, but from having been here on the ground at the time, I know just how much work that is. It was literally all hands on deck between our executive director, our rehabilitation assistant, and our pangolin guardians, because they have a role in every step of that process as well. So, anyway, I say all that to say it's been such a journey of seeing the growth and development of this, where we've been really encouraged that now, as here we are in 2026 as PCRF, we have been able to really pull together these three core areas that we work, which is in the research and protection and rewilding of pangolins, because there is such a need in all these different facets, but all these facets fit together at the same time. Um, so then, like pushing fast forward a little bit more, the beginning of last year at this time as well, because Saturday is World Pangolin Day, and so I was out here for some awareness and outreach. And then I did have some time in the field as well, which was really amazing. But Kelsey and I, from all of our data and experience we'd had with all these pangolins the last few years, we sat down and we actually wrote the national rehabilitation guidelines for Namibia. And the government has since endorsed those guidelines, which then feeds into we're preparing to open a dedicated pangolin rehabilitation center this year, because even with all that we've been able to do, the survival rate went from 40%. We've raised that 50% to we are at a 90% survival rate now for these pangolins, which is huge. But it's also been with a limited capacity, because where we do our rehabilitation is like in partnership, and on like we rent like a farmhouse, and like we're in collaboration to be where we are. But then in having our own dedicated center, it's just going to increase our capacity so much more that we can actually house many more pangolins at a time. Because with the four in December, like, I mean, the inn was full, so that was tough. We made it work, but it just even showed the need for that even more. Because also, mind you, at the same time, we've got the rehabilitation going on, but we're still monitoring wild pangolins in the Nine Eye Conservancy, trying to learn about what are their populations like, how do they behave, what kinds of areas are they in. Again, all of these facets coming together. So really, but when I came into PCRF, it was 2022 to 2023. It's been amazing to be a part of this really intentional growth. And as a small organization, and from somebody that comes from the zoological field, and all these years I've been so passionate about wanting to get involved in conservation, and not just conservation, but something really meaningful, and something that is like the what we all like want to see conservation be. Because what I have seen is that um, it's not always a supportive community, and there are conservation organizations that are really happy to just kind of do their thing and bring in as much funding as they can and kind of be like a big operation, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But what really impressed on me when I first met Kelsey, our executive director, and our very small team at the time, like literally our just core team of pangolin guardians, um, is that we lead with so much integrity. Everything we do is very authentic and very like bottom up conservation. It's meant to be with the communities. It should be empowering the local people here to be a part of this and to do it, and for their voices to also lead and be decision makers. And so, being a part of this and the growth that we've had with it, I think just speaks to that this approach is the right approach. And it's not easy. It's been very challenging. Pangolins are so little known. I still meet people every single day. Actually, on my way over here, I met a group of like 15 nursing students from the US, and they were all meeting each other along the way. So when I met some of them on the plane, because we were going to South Africa, I flew into Cape Town, and then we were going Cape Town to Windhoek here in Namibia. And I met some of them, and so others were like, "Wait, are you part of us?" Like, and so I basically got adopted by this group today, which was amazing. But like, even with them, like none of them had heard about a pangolin before ever. So I got to even just share with them about the amazing animals that pangolins are, and how World Pangolin Day is this weekend. And also just yeah, speak to the testament of who we are and what we do. And yeah, just being able to share that anytime that we can is so powerful. So yeah, it's been a really amazing journey. Really, at any time we could get a call about a confiscated pangolin. Even this time of year, it's not as common, but it does happen. It was 2 years ago that I literally hopped on a plane with like 3 days notice because we had an orphaned pangolin baby. Pangolin babies are called a pango pup, and we had this orphan baby. And I mean, the team was just drowning. Like, nobody was prepared to all of a sudden hand raise a baby, let alone like a young baby who really needed a lot of like full-time critical care. And so, insert my experiences as a zookeeper and hand raising all the animals that I have, and this intricate knowledge that we have of what they need, and that intuition. And so I said, "I'll come if you need me. I'll come." And so I did. And his name was Matabe, and I will forever be the honor of my life to help sustain his, because for 6 weeks we battled 3 rounds of like severe pneumonia and a lot of other things. Like, it was very difficult to keep him alive and to get him to thrive, and treatment planning with the vets and literally writing the textbook as we're using it. It was really challenging time. Um, so I bring him up because I think of him, especially this time of year, in that even while I'm here, we could very well have a confiscated pangolin. You just never know. But we're always ready to jump in whenever that need comes up, whatever kind of specialized care that they might need. Like with Matabe, I was literally 24 hours a day with him for like 6 weeks. And so each one of my visits here to Namibia has been like a different chapter. And I don't always know what, the chapter is going to hold, but it's really grown me and shaped me as not just a person, but as a professional. And I am constantly relying on the knowledge and experience that I have from all my years as a keeper in doing this, as well as what I've continued to learn. Because what's really impressed on me in this conservation world, I mean, even with all of us in the US, is that it really is about people, and it's about people coming together. And in this case, to protect pangolins, to raise awareness for pangolins, for people like the group of 15 people I met today who've never heard of them in their entire life. And thinking about the level of awareness and support that's needed to do this kind of work. funding and conservation is already extremely difficult. I've written a lot of grants now. I've gotten a lot of no's back. It's really tough when that's literally the fuel to literally fuel the tank of the car that you need to drive to go and pick up Penny the pangolin, or to bring our pangolin guardians from the conservancy to come and work with the pangolins with the rehabilitation aspects. It's actually two different parts of the country. And so everything that I do in the like probably 27 hats that I tend to wear is all rooted in just this sense of this is all about community. It really takes a village. And through my journey, I really feel that I I've come to embody this sense of meaningful conservation can really happen from anywhere. And even though like I'm here in Namibia now and I'm so happy to be with the team for the next few weeks, every single day from my little office in my house in Orlando, Florida, I'm still doing pangolin conservation, raising awareness and raising support. I've actually been mobilizing all kinds of things for World Pangolin Day across the US and the UK. Bringing people and connecting the dots together has been really amazing. And it's a lot of work, but it's something I do because I care about it so much and I believe in it. I've seen it firsthand that everything I do in the US has a direct impact in the success of what happens here. So, yeah, in a nutshell, that's like a big fullness of what we do as PCRF, but also where my role really comes into play, which also is how AZAC comes into play because as a partner, you guys are just as much a part of this. And we really appreciate that because being able to have that sense of community and knowing we're not alone in this and that you're standing with us, it means everything.
Well, I feel super inspired by Penny. So
Penny, yes.
now that I'm inspired, can I volunteer over there, or how do members or members or AZAC members can get involved? Do you guys do like little intern? Do you guys do internships, ecotourism, or anything like that for us?
Mm.
And just give you a heads up, we have like another 5 minutes.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Oh my gosh, sorry. I've talked forever. Also,
No, it's
yeah,
all
like
good.
I want to leave room for if there's any questions that want to pop in. So yeah, I'll just say quickly, I definitely think this is something we could continue the conversation about and see what we can do. We would love if keepers wanted to come and do like some kind of in-field internship with us. That's definitely a realm of possibility. There's just a lot of factors that go into that with the time of year and what our field capacity is. Like when we have the rehab center up and running, for example, that's going to open up more capacity for us to have like more dedicated volunteers coming over. Because right now it is just still our small team. And so when we do have someone to come over, we want it to be a meaningful experience and be able to, have people go to maybe different aspects of our field work here. But like in the meantime, I will say like we've had amazing individual zookeepers and chapters step forward in just wanting to support however they can. So Brooke from Elmwood Park Zoo AZAC, she like made a pangolin sticker for World Pangolin Day, and it's with a pizza, and it says like, oh, what does it say? It's so cute. You need to check out their social media. But she just came up with this idea. She just put her creative mind to work and said, I want to make a sticker to support pangolin conservation. She's literally handling orders like herself, and the chapter has some plans to continue awareness through the year. She said, yeah, I'd be happy to make some new educational materials, and overnight like whipped up some like useful posters and flyers, and just using her as an example because like I met her at the conference, and to stay in touch with some of like all of you amazing people has been amazing because we are such a small team, and for me, like in the US, like it's just me, and so to be able to like start to assemble like a team of people who, even if something you wanted to do is put on like we've also had Cosley Park put together a painting for pangolins a few years ago. That was amazing. Like that was like one like event that they did, but like what they raised, we put directly to use in the field. So like there's so much capacity for impact from literally wherever anybody is. And like personally, I'm very encouraged because I can only do so much myself. And like for Brooke to even step forward and create these things for us that are not only like for us to use, but they're going to use it. Like they're planning to post it to social media. They're planning to do things in their local community. I think that's so powerful. And so alongside like looking at field opportunities, I think it would be so powerful for keepers in the US to be able to do something for pangolins, and it can be as simple as I made this really cool design for a sticker and now I'm going to sell it, and through that I'm going to raise awareness for PCRF.
Yeah, I think we could try to help you with that. I think I have a couple ideas where I could get the your messaging out there. So give us a couple of weeks and I will try to figure out something. I know the next thing I'm going to be doing is either I'm going to be writing it or another committee member is going to be writing an article. And I would like to highlight Penny because I think that's going to really hit the nail for a lot of people.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, awesome. Thank
yeah.
you.
Committee members, do you guys have any questions? Quick questions?
I just wanted to jump in and say thank you for being open to working with students too, because I think that there's a lot of energy there because they're not working all day necessarily, not quite as burned out as some keepers might be, having to deal with all the elements. So your openness to having different people get involved, I think, is really beneficial for them and hopefully for you too. So thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah,
Um,
we've had some. Oh, sorry. I think there's probably a delay, but I was just going to say we've had some amazing local Namibian students that I've been able to mentor and that have come alongside and learned, but also international students. And I think that there's still a lot yet to come of some really amazing positive ways that we can intersect and um, connect students from both Namibia and the US.
how do you attach a tracking, um, the GPS systems to the pangolins?
Oh yeah, good question. So it's so the scale is like a really tough, like a really thick, like fingernail. And pangolin scales are made of keratin. It's what our fingernails and hair is made of. But it's very similar to a nail in that, like, if you have a long nail, you get past like the point with the nerve endings. And of course, with the nerve endings, it's very sensitive. So with like the anatomy of the scale, there's actually not only a very specific part of the scale, you want to go more toward the end, but not too close to the end that it could like more easily break. But kind of like the center back of the pangolin, there's a few different scales that are the ideal scales to attach so that it just kind of wears like a little backpack. It's nicely balanced. And then, and that's the GPS. So we try to deploy a GPS whenever possible. The funding for these things is insane though. Like one tag costs like $1,500. We get maybe 6 months out of it because pangolin, like technology for pangolin tests is like a long way to go. It's actually something Kelsey, among the like 352 things at least that she does, is like trying to work with companies and also getting that funding to try to develop some better tech that's renewable, like you can recharge the battery. But it's like only like about this big. I mean, it could fit in the palm of your hand. The more lightweight, the better. I know there's been some studies with trying to get that like better constructed. But that GPS tag is really crucial, especially for like for a rehabilitated and like released pangolin, because we really need to see how they're doing. We always will expect to see some kind of dispersal from the release site. We choose that release site very carefully based on everything all the knowledge we've collected about the animal, and we also really survey the area. It's also figuring out what other private landowners are on the other side of this land. Is there electric fencing anywhere within a 30-kilometer radius that this pangolin could go near that would be really dangerous? There's a lot that we need to know. And so then when we have the tag and we see the check-in points on the tag, we can see, okay, so the penguin's dispersing a bit, or oh wow, they are like going out there, like they are just going for it. We want to see them start to kind of circle in and kind of settle into some areas that shows us that they're finding food, and that they're finding some safe places to stay. And so yeah, that tag is really crucial knowledge for us, and just making sure that they're doing well back in the wild. And then there is a secondary tag, a VHF, very high frequency tag. It's a lot smaller, it has a long antenna, and that gets attached like below and to the side of where the GPS tag is. And that's short range, where, so say the GPS tag is lost, or say at some point that battery dies, and for a time we just are going off of VHF. So we can know that last area, and then with radio telemetry we can go and try to find the signal and find the pangolin. Um, so actually, the summer of Penny, there was a female that had been released just a couple of months before Penny. She hadn't been held as long. She had maybe 4 or 5 days of rehabilitation, and she was able to be released. Um, so her name is Aurora, and she was named Aurora because she was like the soundest sleeper when she was in rehabilitation. And anyway, sorry, I know I'm getting on a rabbit trail, but it has a point. So Aurora, we found through just continued like monitoring and like as much hands off as possible, because they do best when we are not involved. If we can remotely monitor them with the GPS tags, and then if there's a need to kind of catch up to them and like get a weight and really like see how they're looking based on what the tag has been telling us, we'll also set up camera traps in the area. And we found through camera trap monitoring of the area Aurora was, she was the first pangolin that I successfully tracked with someone who was knowledgeable with radio telemetry. But we went and tracked her together and found her. A few months later, we found through the camera traps that she had actually not only bred with a wild male, but she had reproduced. And she had a wild pango pup. So just to show and say that these tags are so beneficial in knowing, not only how they're doing, but the success of how they're doing over time.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I think our time is up now. If you have any more questions for anybody, please email Jessie. Is your email on your website, Jessie?
So yeah, so our main email is info@pangolincrf.org, but I also have my own email. It's jessie@pangolincrf.org. So it's pretty easy to remember, and that's JESSIE. So yeah, if anyone has questions, or even if like you guys circle back with your chapters and people have questions about what you might have shared, and maybe if there's anything that I can clarify or even just go into in a bit more depth, I'm more than happy to chat. And so yeah, please feel free to send me a message.
Sounds good. Well, thank you for taking your time. Hopefully you get to have some good night's sleep, or it's like morning right
Yeah,
there. So I don't know if it's worth sleeping or not.
yeah.
But
For a
I
little bit,
appreciate
yeah. Of
Jesse,
course.
but I'll reach
Yeah.
out to you in the next couple of days or weeks, so we can start writing an article for you and everything. So I appreciate you taking the
Yeah,
time
that
for
sounds
helping us out.
great. Yeah, of course. Well, thank you for having me on. This has been so exciting, and actually, the whole team has been so excited about this call, even if they haven't been on it themselves. But I've just been super thrilled that there was an interest here, and yeah, to have you guys as partners means the world. So yeah, thank you so much for just being interested and just being part of our community.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Jesse. We're going to get started.
Yeah.
Our the conservation meeting is going to start right after this. So thank you, Jesse. Have a good night,
Awesome.
and we'll
Yes,
talk to
of
you soon.
course. Thanks so much. All right. I'll talk to y'all soon. Thank you so much again.
Bye.
Bye.